If you're following us over from Reimagining Star Wars, we're finishing up what I like to call the Youngling lightsaber arc. We just finished up a test of strength in which Ahsoka was captured, and now we're heading into Bound for Rescue. Take it away, Santa.
So now we pick up in part 3 of our story arc with episode 8, Bound for Rescue. And in this episode, now the young Jedi, the Jedi in training, have been separated from Ahsoka from the last episode, and their ship is critically damaged. It's kind of listless in space. It's got very little power. They're kind of getting along, but barely. And they send back a message to Obi-Wan to get to have them come and rescue him. At this point, Obi-Wan tells them to stay put, and of course he's learned that Ahsoka's been separated from him. He says, "Stay put. We'll be out there to get you." And he orders Commander Cody to go out to get them. And just as that happens, General Grievous's fleet arrives and prevents Obi-Wan from leaving. There's a big battle that takes place through the episode. We keep going back and forth between the kids and Obi-Wan. But the short of it is that Obi-Wan and Cody are locked down in this big battle with Grievous and his fleet. And they take huge losses. Obi-Wan, his ship is critically damaged. Everybody has to evacuate at the end. And as Grievous comes on board to kind of take over Obi-Wan's vessel, Obi-Wan has set the ship to self-destruct, and Grievous gets out just in the nick of time as that Obi-Wan's ship explodes. And at this point, Obi-Wan and the clones, his forces, have all been in escape pods, and they're jettisoned out. So they're of no help to Ahsoka or these young Jedi in training. So they're kind of on their own. So on the other side of it, as we've been going back and forth, we learn that the ship that the kids are on is critically damaged, and it has to land. It has to be repaired, or they're going to die. So they land the ship, but they have to go to the nearest planet, which happens to be Hondo's base. They land on Florum, and that's the pirate hangout, right? That's where Hondo's base of operations is. And these kids land on Florum, kind of away from Hondo's cove, pirate cove, if you will, and they see a traveling carnival. The kids see this traveling carnival passing by, and they decide that they're going to leverage that carnival to get into Hondo's base to help rescue Ahsoka. And they go to the carnival guy, and they put on some acrobatics that wow the carnival leader enough to say, "Yep, you can join us." And so the kids join the carnival. They go into costume as these acrobats and into Hondo's lair, or his pirate cove, to perform. Inside there, we learned that this carnival owner has come through before and has put on a show that Hondo didn't take to very well, and he had the performers beheaded. So the stakes are quite high. Hondo and his pirates are drinking. They're doing pirate stuff, and of course Ahsoka is being held there captive, and he brings Ahsoka out to watch the carnival. We're going to see if these are good enough to placate Hondo, or if he's going to kill them too. So the kids come out, they do their acrobatics. Hondo is wildly entertained by it, and he's distracted enough that ultimately they're able to free Ahsoka. Again, Hondo's drunk. Most of the pirates are drunk, and by the time they catch on to what's happening, Ahsoka and the kids are fleeing. They've gotten on a speeder and they're on their way. So the episode kind of ends with Hondo and his crew in hot pursuit on speeder, and they're shooting. So I think at this point we'll turn it back over to a magic maker to finish out the 4-part story arc. And again, just to reemphasize that this story arc doesn't really build on the overall story so much as it is building Ahsoka's character. So Magic Maker, you take it from here.
So following them bound for rescue is a necessary bond. And now we have Ahsoka rescued and the younglings who've rescued her rushing back to get to the Crucible, where R2, Gondoni, and Huang, who is now restored, even though he doesn't have his arms, are getting the Crucible ready to take off. Little tidbit about the Crucible: if you look close, you can see Old Republic symbols on the doors, even though they're wearing it off. Something that's kind of cool. Now, of course, Ahsoka and the younglings are being chased by the Weequay pirates, both in speeder tanks. And as the Crucible is being flown by R2 above them and Gondoni is trying to pull them all up onto the Crucible, we find out that the hats that they have, a little mask they're using to disguise themselves, could be used to keep the tank going straight, but it ends up coming off anyway, and the tank starts to veer. And we have this precariously hanging string of Jedi students, younglings, all hanging from the ramp of the Crucible. Petro, the Jedi youngling, jumps down in there to have to steer, but ultimately what happens is even though they get back on track and they try to get back on the Crucible, the Weequay pirates disable the engines to the Crucible and it crashes. But in the process of crashing, their tank crashes, and even though they all live, they're all recaptured by the pirates. So the pirates return with their Jedi captive, and as they get back, they discover that Grievous has arrived and has taken over the pirate camp. This is where Dooku is getting his revenge on Hondo, and Hondo could have made a deal here if he was willing to accept that all his stuff would get destroyed by Grievous, but he was like, absolutely not. This is outrageous. But of course, instead of getting killed, our funny pirate is imprisoned by Dooku. So when the pirates see that the separatists, Grievous, have taken over the pirate camp, they're like, uh-oh. And Ahsoka then is able to make the argument that they should let her and the younglings go so they can help them fight off Grievous because she's fought him before. So R2 turns out to be a very deceitful little droid, as he's able to deceive the idiotic battle droids as always, thus allowing Ahsoka and the younglings and the pirates to infiltrate into the base and find Hondo and Naka, where the Ahsoka and the younglings try to make a deal with Hondo, and Hondo wants to see their lightsabers to prove that they are ready for the fight ahead. And of course, they all show him except one, Katuni. And this is one of those moments where you actually like Hondo, other than the fact that he's funny, where he kind of mentors and encourages the Jedi youngling to build her lightsaber, and that seeing that done would be priceless. Of course, with that encouragement, Katuni does successfully build her lightsaber, and then she cuts Hondo and Naka free. Of course, Grievous, in typical fashion, once he learns that they're escaping, orders his tanks to destroy everything and kill them all, which of course proves to be too little too late as they escape. Of course, the Jedi and Ahsoka are on one hover tank while Ahsoka and his men are on these speeder bikes. And Hondo and Naka makes it to the secret hangar first and goes to leave the Jedi. But Katuni, who rode on the back of the speeder with Hondo, convinces him to go back. Like, please, come on. And Hondo has some sort of sense of honor and turns around for them. And so we see that Hondo has restored Slave 1, and the fire spray is able to pick up Ahsoka and her Jedi younglings and then shoot on Grievous, and Grievous has to run for it. And the only reason why they don't kill Grievous right then and there is because the tanks show up, the speeder tanks show up from the Separatists, fire on Slave 1, and they have to flee. And that's the end of the episode and the arc. So what are the takeaways from that arc? Well, one, it is another arc with Ahsoka, and we get to see her develop just a little bit more. Is it an absolutely necessary arc? Probably not, but we do get to see some pretty good Jedi lore, and we get to see how much history the Jedi Order and Star Wars is built upon, and that is fascinating. For example, Huang says that he's been training younglings for 1,000 generations. He is either a very old droid or they've been passing down his memories to droid from droid to droid. Now Santa's going to take us into the next arc with some droids and a diminutive colonel. Stick around and take it away, Santa.
We're going to do this next 4-part story arc a little different than we have before. And honestly, this is one of the most negative you'll ever see me respond to anything Star Wars. This 4-part story could have been done in one and it still would have been bad. This story arc basically revolves around a MacGuffin. They need to go get to decode signals. And it's led by a little guy called Gascon. He reminds me more of Plankton from SpongeBob SquarePants. He's an annoying little guy. And the droids in here, R2 is in it. And proves that R2 is more adept than the others. And really the story is a side story about chasing this MacGuffin and some things that happen along the way. All of it is meaningless. In the end, they're able to return it, and it allows then some encryption to be decoded. So there is a little value in that decryption, the encryption device, and the only redeeming part of the 4-part episode story comes in episode 3, where they find a clone trooper who's lost his memory. That stormtrooper's name is Gregor. Gregor ends up sacrificing his life once he realizes who he is, just to free the droids and the Gascon to go back. Other than that, really, this whole thing is throwaway. Would not encourage that's on a must-watch at all. I reckon if you just are glutton for it and you have to sit through it so you can see the whole thing, I would do it last. It's really not a good story arc. So this is season 5, episode 10, Secret Weapons, episode 11, A Sunny Day in the Void, episode 12, Missing in Action, and episode 13, Point of No Return. And for me, I hopefully will never have to watch this 4-part episode ever again. So that's it from me. I'll let a Magic Maker give you his point of view on it, but that's all I've got.
So if you made it this far, and I hope you have, and you're making it along with us for season 5, we still have the second half. And if you'll follow us by clicking that end screen, it'll take us right back to Reimagining Star Wars, where we'll continue this. We're so close to season 7. We're almost there. Click the end screen.